They had my phone the whole time and were going through my photos, through my social media, through my conversations. And then it just kept escalating for another 5 hours. Thinking on the one hand, I'm a British citizen. There's a limit to what they're going to do. They're simply not going to lay a finger on me. And on the other hand, in the scarier times, and it really just kept escalating for all those hours, I remember also thinking, wow, actually, these people are capable of anything. My name is Rajiv Sinha. I'm born and raised in London in the UK, but Indian origin. And I'm the founder and director of a non-profit organization called Hindus for Human Rights UK. And so my organization, Hindus for Human Rights, was invited to form the Hindu part of a multi-faith human rights delegation to Palestine. And we didn't hesitate to say yes to that invitation for this delegation of Jews, Muslims, Christians, us two Hindus, and one Buddhist who we are proud to call our friend, a man called Mung Zarni. They had told us in advance that when you get to this border crossing, there will be three different security sections: Jordanian, then Israeli, then Palestinian. And we were told that the Jordanian section at the beginning and the Palestinian section at the end would be very easy and basically just a stamp, and that if there were to be any problems, then it would be with the Israeli one in the middle. We got through the Jordanian section of security, the first one. Uh, so now we were at the Israeli section, security section, and it was, imagine airport style security scans. You put your luggage through a conveyor belt. Uh, and we had all gotten through the security, the scanning of the Israeli section. So all that was left was to have our documents checked by the Israeli security staff. We had two Palestinians with us on our delegation. One called Tamara Taha, who was born, I think, in Palestine, but is now an American citizen with an American passport, and has been back many times and, gets detained, harassed every single time. So she knew what she was up against, and she was indeed detained and hassled and given a difficult time yet again. I think the other Palestinian in our group was called Hiba Qasem, who had never been to Palestine before, was born in Michigan in the USA, US citizen, US passport. So once we had gotten through the security section, through the scans and baggage section, a few of us were taking pictures of Hiba, triumphantly saying, look, we made it through, Hiba's made it through. I was one of the people who took a picture of her. I was the one who got seen taking a picture of her. And a female Israeli guard came up to me and said, delete that picture. And when you delete a picture on your phone, it swipes onto the previous picture on your phone. So she saw there was another picture of Hiba. She said, delete that one as well. So then it swiped onto the previous picture, which was a picture of the drive, the beautiful drive I described from Madaba to the border crossing. So then she took my phone and went into my photos and saw that I had been I'd taken pictures of the drive over, essentially, of the journey, which doesn't seem like a very controversial thing to do. We were on a trip, whether we were on holiday or this human rights delegation that we were on, people take pictures, and there's nothing secretive about the drive from Madaba to the border crossing. Everyone knows it exists. There's nothing secret here. But she didn't like that and started speaking. She had a walkie-talkie on her left shoulder and started speaking into it in Hebrew, so I couldn't understand. At which point I was taken off to the side by her and met with two male Israeli guards. This was the first point where I was thinking, okay, this could get a bit ugly. So one person would just start sort of shouting at me in Hebrew, and the other would translate it to me in English. That happened for about half an hour. They had my phone the whole time, and were going through my photos, through my social media, through my conversations. And then it just kept escalating for another 5 hours. So they saw pictures of me with a Palestine flag at protests and stuff like that. At which point they stopped caring that I had taken pictures on the drive, and it became about my politics or my activism. So then for the next 4 or 5 hours, they I was questioned, to put it politely, by different people, about 4 or 5 different people in different rooms, taken through dark corridors, screamed at by different people, other people just silently standing and staring at me, all very intimidating. Not allowed to go to the bathroom for 3 hours. I was desperate for the bathroom. When I was finally allowed to go to the bathroom, that particularly nasty person who was screaming at me and who really you could tell was enjoying this whole experience, a sadistic grin on his face a lot of the time. He finally allowed me to go to the bathroom after a few hours, and then immediately after I entered the bathroom, he came running in, screaming my name, banging on the door, saying, "Get out! Get the F out!" And I said, "Now, now!" Screaming at me. So then I had to come out and say, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And then as he led me out of the bathroom, there were some people that he knew sitting outside, and he looked at them and they looked back at him. They all started looking at me and laughing. So it was all, a big a joke to them, or a bit of fun. I was questioned by someone who introduced himself as Ahlad, the head of security at the facility. He took me into his office, and they had my devices. They had all of my possessions this whole time. So for the whole 5 hours, I didn't have my things. They had my laptop, my suitcase, my backpack, my laptop, my phone. They would come out every now and then, and I would get excited and think they were gonna let me through, but they were actually just my phone had locked itself. So they made this unlock it and then took it away and then disappeared for another hour. You you would think that there's a high degree of protection that comes from being a British or American citizen, and that, Israel or the Israeli authorities aren't going to do anything too much to you. At the same time, how many Westerners has Israel killed? This happens all the time. It happened last week, right? The US citizen shot in the head by a sniper. Um, so I remember during my 5 hours oscillating between thinking, on the one hand, I'm a British citizen. There's a limit to what they're going to do. They're simply not going to lay a finger on me. And on the other hand, in the scarier times, and it really just kept escalating for all those hours, I remember also thinking, wow, actually, these people are capable of anything. At one point, I was worried that, they had my suitcase. I was worried that they were going to come out, especially that particularly unpleasant person. I was worried he was going to come out with a bag of drugs and say, "What's this, Rajiv?" And basically plant that on me and say they had it in my backpack or my suitcase. And I felt like anything was possible. I felt very physically intimidated. That one person was screaming at me. I felt like he would have loved to physically assault me. They when I was finally given the final decision that I'd been refused entry, they put me on file. They took me into a different room, took pictures of me, took my thumbprints, and I was told by a member of the immigration department, or whatever it's called, that I'd been refused entry. I was made to sign something I wasn't allowed to read, and then that sadistic person, he saw from the opposite side of the room that I'd been given the decision, but he ran over because he wanted to tell me himself again. I'd already been told, but he made sure to come over and said to me, "I want to tell you, the decision has been made. You've been refused." I said, "Yes, I know." And he said, "No Israel for you." I said, "Yes, I get it." He said, uh, "Back to Jordan for you," or something. I said, "Yes, I understand." This was a difficult experience for me, and it's had a degree of trauma, that I've had to um, process for myself. But far more significantly, and far more importantly, is the experience of Palestinians, and I mean that in two ways. One, more broadly, they're being carpet bombed in Gaza. They're being um, ethnically cleansed in the West Bank and killed in the West Bank, and we know everything that's happening there. But also, I got a real insight into things in a very personal way. There was a father I was in detention section with for an hour, and he and I were given the news, the final news at the same time that we'd been refused entry. If you were allowed through, like the rest of my delegation was, there was a little bit of a gate where you could see us in the detention section. So this father had been detained like me, but they had allowed through his wife and two children. They must have been about 5 years old. And so, as I said, the father and I were refused at the same time. And as we were being forcibly removed from the facility by Israeli police, his two children put their hands through an opening in that gate towards him and started screaming and crying. As you know, they were just watching their father being taken away from them. So I wonder also what happens to this family. I always wonder what happened to them. There's a chance that they'll never be reunited. Maybe they were reunited the next day or the next week, or maybe they're completely fine, but we don't know. And I hate that uncertainty. Did he have a place to stay in Jordan? He got removed back to Jordan. Does he have a job to go back to? Do they have a way of living, supporting themselves without him? All these questions. It's inhumane, how can people do this? What kind of person separates a family like that?
थैंक यू फॉर वॉचिंग द फुल वीडियो। आप में से बहुत से ऐसे लोग हैं जिन्होंने शायद हमारा यूट्यूब चैनल सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया। सो इफ यू वांट टू सपोर्ट इंडिपेंडेंट जर्नलिज्म एंड वॉच मोर मीनिंगफुल कंटेंट, प्लीज सब्सक्राइब टू आवर यूट्यूब चैनल।